I mean, I see that they're in there,
Hey
but
guys.
like, here it comes. Oh
What
no,
are you watching?
oh no, oh, they turn it
Oh,
off,
I'm
turn it
trying,
off,
I'm
turn it
trying, I'm
off.
trying.
Oh, hi,
Oh,
hi,
hey,
Andre.
hi, Andre.
Hey,
Hey,
nothing's
hey,
happening. What's
nothing.
up?
Hey, hi.
Oh.
Busted.
Busted.
Do you know what this is?
Yes, we know what it is.
What video? I already see a video.
Do we have to talk about it? I don't want to talk about
Is there a
it.
reason you're watching this?
I wanted to know where puppies come
What's that? He's
from.
gonna give us the talk.
What talk?
Well,
Oh boy, here comes the talk.
What talk?
okay.
The talk about where puppies come
Okay.
from.
What about kittens?
Yeah, those two.
Why don't we talk about this? Why don't we go grab a seat?
Whatever happens from here on, Nolan, it's on your head.
Do we get to find out where the puppies and kittens come from?
I'm afraid it's going to be far, far worse than that.
You guys can't have puppies.
Don't
What?
tell me what to do, human.
I'm not saying like I'm not letting you.
Darn right you're not.
I'm saying you can't. Like you physically can't.
Wait a second. What's this for then?
we removed the necessary equipment for you to do that.
You did what?
There's definitely something here.
Nolan, get your head out of your crotch.
Um,
What have you done, human?
Look, instead of me trying to explain this to you, why don't we have an expert explain it to you? Okay? Yeah.
Is the expert going to be Andre pretending to be someone else again?
Almost definitely.
Yes.
Yup.
Hello, and welcome back. Today we will be talking to your dogs about their reproductive organs and where they've gone.
You can watch this video with your dogs or share the information with them later. I'm going to talk to them about some of the dangers of being intact, as well as potentially some things that may happen now that they're not. I traveled to the University of New Hampshire to conduct an interview with the veterinarian there for this Canine News special report. Hello doctor, thank you for seeing me today. My name is Iyama Canine Expert. Most people know you, but if you could introduce yourself real quick. All right,
I'm Dr. Sarah Proctor. I'm a veterinarian here at UNH.
You are an advocate for spaying and neutering of companion animals. This is true.
Yes.
Could you give me some of the reasons why?
The number one reason for death in dogs and cats in America is still euthanasia, because there are still unwanted animals that end up in shelters and don't have homes.
So overpopulation.
Yeah. Maybe not a big issue that is obvious in New England, but the rest of the country is still struggling.
So this has changed a lot. There's been a huge change in these numbers since the 1970s.
Yeah.
That's correct. Do you happen to know those numbers or have a good idea how far down those numbers have come?
Tens of millions of animals in the distant past that were being euthanized every year. Now estimates range still in the millions, but instead of 30 million, maybe it's 4 to 6 million. I haven't looked at the numbers in a while, but
It's a huge change though.
yeah, and it's continuing to drop, but it's still, we think it's still in the millions a year.
Right, and that's still because of the overpopulation issue is mainly the biggest reason for euthanasia in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there are some urban myths, I guess you would say, or sort of things that revolve around spaying and neutering your animal. Things like the growth is either stunted or there may be sicknesses that come from being spayed or neutered earlier. Can you speak on that?
Growth is not stunted. An animal will still regain the same height and length. Some people want a male to look big and beefy and wide-headed and muscular, and that you won't get. A neutered male dog is going to look like a female dog.
Because they don't have the testosterone.
Right.
Okay.
But size-wise, he's still going to grow pretty much
They'll
the
grow
same.
to breed standard. So the studies that I read, the one having to do with golden retrievers and then Labradors, both mentioned quite a few things about genetic disorders. It's worth saying the studies that I'm referring to are talking about neutering, spaying your animals, having a negative impact on the animal's life further on. These two studies are the only that are notable for publication. Okay, so
and they're pretty recent.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so one made a bigger deal about the body conditioning score being worse for neutered animals. Is that something that either you have observed or you have heard anywhere else, or this is really just an isolated publication that has not been mentioned anywhere else?
No, that's people would agree with that. That when you take away the hormones, the animals tend to gain weight much easier, and so the owner has to be more diligent about feeding properly to maintain correct body weight, and owners are not good at that. So most neutered animals in America are overweight, just like most Americans are overweight.
Right.
And intact animals can become overweight. I've seen it, but generally, and especially working in the shelter, I see a lot of intact animals. Their body condition tends to be much better.
Okay, is that now going a little bit into the study and sort of what I've personally observed, and maybe you have as well, neutering may have something to do with paying more attention to the animal, or
There are studies that show that intact animals are more likely to end up in shelters, which might suggest that they aren't valued as much. Or the other argument about that is that maybe they have those bad behaviors that make them poorer pets. So they're roaming and they're marking and they're aggressive and they're fighting, and that's why they end up in a shelter.
there's definitely, there's absolutely, you can say without a doubt that there is behaviors that are attached to intact animals, and there is mating sort of, I don't want to say rituals because that's sort of a weird way to say it, but tendencies that do go along with an intact animal.
Yes, there are behaviors that you won't see as frequently in a spayed or neutered animal.
And these behaviors can lead to a dog wandering off, or becoming aggressive, or behaviors like this are absolutely connected.
Yeah.
So,
and that's I don't know if it's that study or if it was another study that linked longevity to neutering, and it wasn't that there was anything biologically better about being neutered. It was that you weren't roaming and getting hit by cars and getting hurt. You were more of a homebody when you're neutered, so you're not getting into trouble, and therefore you're living longer and you're dying later of chronic disease as opposed to injury and infection.
okay, the problems that would befall intact dogs, is there anything that is specific to dogs that were intact that would come up, that wouldn't come up for a dog that wasn't?
Testicular cancer,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
which is not that common, but if it's a cryptorchid animal and the testicle is retained in the abdomen, those have many, many times higher likelihood of cancer. That's also considered an inherited trait, so you wouldn't want to be breeding that animal anyway. Prostate problems, enlarged prostates, prostatitis, you don't see that in neutered dogs.
Is there anything that you know or has been observed or has been mentioned in the veterinary space that happens to altered dogs that does not happen to intact dogs?
Spayed female dogs are more likely to develop urinary incontinence. Females who are spayed cannot get a uterine infection, a life-threatening uterine infection called pyometra, and their risk of mammary cancer is reduced if they're spayed before they ever go into heat. The chance of mammary cancer drops by like 90%, 80 or 90%.
That's huge. Was
Yeah.
that
And in dogs, mammary cancer is 50% of the time really aggressive and nasty and will kill the dog, and 50% of the time it's not that bad. In cats, almost every cat that gets mammary cancer is aggressive, nasty cancer that will kill the cat.
wow? Is there advocacy for keeping animals intact?
Yeah,
Is that
especially because of these studies.
okay?
Yeah.
Is that recent, or has that?
Yeah, it's very
recent.
Well,
Okay.
Since these studies came out, there are people that have advocated for delaying spaying neutering until an older age, with not really any good science behind it. Now maybe there's a little bit, but this is only 2 breeds.
The benefits of potentially keeping someone intact,
Mm-hmm.
thus keeping these behaviors, tendencies, and risks for the aforementioned diseases. If it's far outweigh that, especially as far as population control goes, but also just for benefit of the owner as well.
Well, that's where it's like the two different stakeholders in the issue are at odds. I want the population of animals to be healthier, which means we can't keep having unwanted puppies and kittens. And that means we get to spay and neuter as young as we can so we don't have accidental pregnancies. But you, as the dog owner, maybe you feel like you're responsible enough, you're not going to have an accidental pregnancy. And for your dog, it may be better to wait or to never spay neuter. How do I know as the vet whether you're that responsible person or not?
Right.
I'm always going to tell you to spay and neuter.
Sure.
Well, I don't have any good reason for breeding puppies and kittens.
There's no accounting for the responsibility of a singular person.
Right. So I think there's discussion now about doing individualized recommendations. So instead of just a blanket statement, yeah, you get to spay and neuter everybody at 6 months, maybe we should look at the breed, look at the owner, and make a judgment about their responsibility. I don't know. That's where it gets weird because
But as a vet, I mean, you may know this person for a couple hours at the most.
Yeah.
It would be extremely difficult.
Yeah.
To determine. Okay.
So everybody thinks they're a good pet owner. They
Sure.
don't think that their dog is running around mating.
But if you don't have eyes on them at all times,
Right.
there's absolutely no way to know.
Right.
There's a lot of information about spaying and neutering out there, but it's important to remember how many animals used to die of euthanasia and how far down that number has come. Hopefully your pets understand now why you took their reproductive organs and that you had their best interest at heart. I'm Ian, I'm a canine expert. Join me next time when we talk about why humping your leg isn't all it's cracked up to be. This has been Canine News Special Report. Good dog.
Well, guys, I hope you now understand why you can't have puppies and that we took your reproductive organs for your own safety as well as population of all pets. Well, cool. Glad we had this talk. I'm gonna go.
I mean, I guess it
I
makes
still don't know where
sense.
puppies and kittens come from, but we're definitely gonna go eat his shoes to get him back, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Dibs on the left one.
What? That's my favorite one.
Hello. Just that. Hello, they had them, and now that they don't.
Hello.
Hello. Today we're going
Why
to
do
be
you
talking...
sound so funny?
Today...
You're the worst dog bed.
What this... Welcome back.
I have
Today
an
we're-
itch. I have an itch. I have an itch. I gotta get it.
No.
I'm the king of the human.
Nah.
3, 1, 2, 3.
I'm a Yama Canine expert.
You have very nice ears.
Thank you. Or not.
Boop.
I am Dr. Shit, I forgot my name.
Audrey, the cat's coming. Audrey, the cat's going to ruin my close-up. I forgot my line.
Which one?
All of them.